Hello, everyone. This is Justin Smythe from nextbigtrade.com. This is your weekly sector review for January 12th, 2024. Starting off with BOTS, the Artificial Intelligence ETF. This ETF bounced strongly at the 10-week moving average this week and was really propelled higher by its top two holdings, NVIDIA and Intuitive Surgical, were both up strongly this week. So basically, a major bounce occurred here. It cleared out um, all the losses from last week and is now once again making new highs for this current uptrend that started at the end of October. Now, the artificial intelligence sector is very interesting because we did see some strength this week. We did see NVIDIA breaking out on above average volume. SMCI was another uh, powerful breakout on strong volume. But there's other stocks in this sector that are still struggling. So one of the key things to watch heading into next week is to see if more artificial intelligence stocks uh, start taking volume and are moving higher. And if that does occur, that's a very bullish sign for this market because that was one of the leading sectors coming out of the October bottom that then fizzled out around the December timeframe. So if we start to see more strength again in this sector, that definitely tilts the market back to a bullish stance. So that's one of the key things to watch heading into next week. Now, the other leading sector during the November December rally was the cryptocurrency stocks, and they had a major run higher, but they've run into massive selling volume over the last 3 weeks, especially this week, and essentially they've taken so much technical damage now that they're really going to have a lot of overhead resistance, even if they are able to rally back higher. So, in terms of leading sectors, this one is definitely off the radar now. It's got too much pressure on top of it, and really, it's calling into question what's going to happen with Bitcoin because these stocks are leveraged to Bitcoin, and if they're acting this week, it probably presents the idea that Bitcoin could be in for a larger pullback as well. So we'll see what happens with cryptocurrency, but right now these stocks are under way too much selling pressure, to continue their uptrend, and they have to fight back through overhead resistance now to move back higher. Now, the US dollar, again, is really one of the keys to the current market because it has moved into stage three. It's now in a counter trend rally back to the 10-week and 30-week moving averages. And how it acts around here is going to determine a lot, for what the stock market does and what precious metals and foreign stocks do over the next few weeks to months. If we get a failure here and a rollover lower, then that's going to boost precious metals, foreign stocks, and potentially the stock market as well. However, if we do break out, that would be a bearish event and would probably be a risk-off event for the entire market. And if you zoom down into the daily chart, you can see we had a big bounce here coming off the recent low. We've been consolidating sideways in a tight range, but unable to really continue to move higher for multiple days now, and really fighting over the gap lower from December, where I think it was a CPI report that came out that really knocked the dollar lower. And also there was, discussions about interest rates where they said that they were going to lower interest rates multiple times next year. So the US dollar is trying to fight back through that level currently, but is unable to even kind of get back into the gap. So if we do get a failure here, that's going to be a bullish sign, especially for commodities and precious metals. Uranium is the big sector move for this week. You can see how the uranium sector had been grinding sideways since, really the start of November and during most of the recent uptrend, but then breaks out on massive volume this week. This is the biggest weekly volume since 2022 for this ETF. and multiple stocks in this sector broke out on massive volume this week. So all of a sudden, even though uranium did break out earlier in 2023, it did go into stage two way back here. The volume really didn't come in until the end of August and September. By that time, the market was still in correction, and the market kind of forced these stocks back lower. Then they did start moving higher again when the stock market bottomed. But really, this event this week is really the volume recognition that really could change the dynamics for this sector. So even though it's been in an uptrend for a while, massive volume finally came in this week. And this was by far the most powerful sector move of the week in the market, and is definitely worth paying attention to heading into the next week. Now, the precious metals, again, could be a major beneficiary of a dollar that continues to roll over. Gold held the 10-week moving average this week. Gold is still in a great position to break out. You can see how it's consolidating right at all-time highs with no overhead resistance. So still has a great setup here, but is really unable to get going and is still kind of underperforming the S&P 500. Silver is kind of in a failed breakout type of, or breakdown type of mode right now, where it's trading really choppy around the 30-week moving average. However, volume was lower on this pullback. And if we do start moving back above the moving averages, that could set up a failed breakdown below the recent December lows. And the gold mining stocks, again, they did pull back on lower volume as well. And we're just waiting for the volume really to come in here to produce a breakout. So this sector is still on watch, but is currently not confirming a breakout higher quite yet. The silver stocks as well, they did have that initial big thrust higher on volume, and then volume did taper off on the pullback as well. Turning to the cannabis stocks, the U.S. listed stocks acted fairly well this week, but the Canadian stocks sold off. So you've got mixed action in this sector. There was more above average volume. We're still technically on a breakout in the sector ETF. However, the U.S. listed stocks are really the ones to focus on at the current time, as a couple of the Canadian stocks, TLRY and CRON, actually failed breakouts this week. So mixed action here, and definitely not as strong as a sector like uranium. Finally, turning to bonds, the LQD ETF in particular was interesting this week, trading heavy volume to the upside, starting to break out of this range potentially here. You're above all this recent former resistance that could now be support as well. So you've got a bullishly acting market that might be ready to continue this powerful uptrend higher. This would continue to create relief on interest rates, which would also potentially help the stock market. So another kind of bullish driver for stocks in the near term, even though we've got an overbought condition in the stock market. So winding up overall, we've got the uranium sector that's breaking out on powerful volume. There's definitely some, even though some of the stocks have ran in that sector, there's other continuation breakouts that are within buying range at this point. The precious metal space is set up for breakout. We need to see more volume coming into that sector. And then the real key is really the US dollar. What does it do coming out of this trading range that it's in currently on the daily chart? Whichever way that breaks will probably determine whether we get a bigger correction or whether we're going to continue to move on to new highs through the rest of January.